Hello, my name is Gene Monterastelli, and I am the editor of TappingQA.com. And the video that you are about to watch is an interview that I did as part of the 24 Hours of Tapping. The 24 Hours of Tapping was a free event, which was a fundraiser for the Peaceful Heart Network. The Peaceful Heart Network provides training and trauma relief tools to those in war-torn countries, as well as working with refugees all over the world. They've been able to help out over 200,000 people all over the world. After you watch this video, if you find this video something that was useful, the very easy way that you can say thank you to the guest for giving their time and sharing their expertise is to go to 24hoursoftapping.com/support and make a small contribution to support the Peaceful Heart Network. Again, that is 24hoursoftapping.com/support, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. We are about to bring onto the stage Jacqui Crooks. Jacqui is one of the pioneers in energy psychology. She's an international speaker and trainer and an EFT Founding Master and one of the authors of EFT and Beyond and Tapping into Ancestral Healing. Jacqui's background in NLP and Hypnosis helped her to create her unique way of working with EFT that facilitates rapid change at a deep level without trauma. Without further ado, please welcome to the stage my friend Jacqui. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you, Gene. I'm sitting here in my bed and breakfast room because I'm
excellent.
How are you doing? 4 o'clock in the morning.
I am hanging in there. I have an amazing team on the other side of this wall that are pumping me full of all sorts of good things to help me to stay present, and they're doing a great job of taking care of everybody in the chat and the comments. I got 2 amazing young men taking care of technology for me on the other side of the continent, so all is well. So one of the things that I've been doing in the conversations that we've been having over the last 16 hours, because we have now been here for 16 hours doing this, is at the beginning of these conversations, I have been asking people to tell their origin story, and not their tapping origin story, but their origin story about the topic that we're going to be talking about with them. And so I've had a chance to see your book. I know Ancestral Healing is something that interests you, but I would love to hear in your words, why is this something that you devoted enough time to thinking about to create a book on a topic like this? Like, what is the thing that has gotten a hold of you, or why do you see this as a useful part of the transformational process?
Okay, thanks, Gene. Well, I think partly from clients in that as far back as we went, there was always something else.
Yeah.
And one of the things I recognized early on was that part of my job here was to break the ancestral family patterns. Mm-hmm. I came from a very loving family, but very, very definite ways of viewing the world, which I didn't agree with as a child. But then you end up thinking maybe they know what they're talking about.
Right.
And so that internal conflict for me, always believing that everybody had good inside them, that they, that they were loving, that if you gave everybody a chance, they would shine. And what I was being told was too great. So gradually, I've been taking off the layers that got put on. So for me, it was transformational, recognizing a lot of the stuff that I was carrying wasn't actually mine. Mm-hmm. It belonged to the family. It had come down the family line. And all of it is survival strategy stuff, but some of it is, hundreds of years old. So, the way of protecting yourself by blaming everybody else, at some point that seemed really essential to somebody. Right. And then it becomes the way of viewing the world, the way of seeing things. It's got to be your fault, because if it's not, it's my fault, and then I'm in trouble. So that's just an example.
Yeah.
But what I realized when I was working through all of this ancestral stuff with clients was how much it affected you where your family came from. So if you came from the UK, we haven't been invaded successfully since 1066. But if you're in Central Europe, the boundaries are constantly changing. People are invading or being invaded. So there's going to be different coping strategies there. If you are Afro-Caribbean and you've got a slavery background, there's going to be different survival strategies passed down there. Same with Jewish people. If you've been persecuted for thousands of years, there's going to be a set of belief systems there that are trying to keep you safe. And it actually doesn't matter where your family comes from. It's just recognizing that the stuff that's not working for you is because it was designed for somebody else in a different century, in a different situation, and that actually you don't need to carry it. And one of the things that I did discover with clients is that often they carry these things out of loyalty to the family.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the family would probably like you to let them go, please.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, anytime, even if we're in a circumstance where we have been given tools as children, we're in a circumstance, 30 or 40 years on, we're in a completely different place in the world that our place is and what is going on. And, it's so funny that we have oftentimes previous generations are doing everything they can to make it better for the generations that follow them. And the generations that follow them, out of this, like you said, this sense of loyalty, cling to these things that are no longer useful because they're trying to be loyal as they're navigating that in that particular way. And then it gets complicated, in addition to like these stories that are passed down, we're recognizing now there is an epigenetics of trauma. And we're in a circumstance that we can pass stuff along. I'm sure you're familiar with Mark Wolin's work, that he's done this really interesting stuff where he's been able to figure out the vocabulary when someone is talking about a trauma. Is this my trauma, or is this an epigenetic trauma that I am carrying with me? That are these stories where, like, it feels like it is something that I own, but even just in the vocabulary that the person is using to talk about the trauma, they are able to we're able to recognize the fact, oh no, this isn't actually yours. And I'm guessing one of the tricky bits of dealing with something like this is there's not an initial sensitizing event. So it's not like there is this moment from my past that I can go back and do the movie technique from because I didn't learn it in experience, but it's something that is given to me. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. The thing is, if you consider that what we're really doing is giving the subconscious new information,
mm-hmm.
you can do it with just with the language you use. So even though I'm carrying this and it's not mine,
mm-hmm.
or even though I'm carrying this and it may not be mine, I'm letting all parts of me know it's safe to let it go now. So you can give instructions, you can give new information, and actually it's far more effective than using the movie technique because you're not having to go for each little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're giving the subconscious permission to go in and find anything that's connected to any of those bits, anything,
mm-hmm.
You're looking at something. So anything that's connected to this, you can let go of now. And you can feel the parts going, thank goodness for that.
Yeah. And so I guess other than the fact that it feels good to let go of this sort of stuff, what's the importance or value of looking kind of through an ancestral lens as we look at this stuff?
You begin to see yourself as you really are. And you begin to find new ways of looking at the world, new ways of looking at you, and new ways of tuning into what's right for you when you're not trying to live what you thought was right for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about getting clarity, coming back to who you are here and now. And it's not about blaming the people that passed stuff on because they did it with the best of intentions. It's about acknowledging that they did the best they could, and they basically wanted you to be safe and happy. So let's be safe and happy so they get what they want, but we'll do it in a different way.
And so then how do we start to parse what is ours and what is something that we are carrying with us? Because some of the things, it's like, our family were blah, blah, blah. Like sometimes we're like calling it out and naming it in a really specific way, but sometimes we don't recognize, it just feels like this is me and this is my belief, or this is just how the world works and I'm operating from that place. And if this is the way the world works, why am I trying to change something? So like, how do we recognize these things that are in the way that were once useful that are no longer useful so we can let them go?
Well, I think I assume that anything that's in your way probably wasn't yours in the first place.
Okay.
Because it feels to me that the stuff that you actually know is your problem is usually sat on top of the roots that was somebody else's.
Okay, yeah.
And I always think that we come in with the stuff from other people. As you said, the traumas that came down through the genes, the belief systems, the way of living that got passed down. But I also think we may come in with unfinished business from other lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always quite useful to do a general thing. So would you like to do some tapping, and I'll show you what
Absolutely. That would be an absolutely fabulous thing. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just looking at time. Okay, let's just go for the whole thing. I'll just do what I would normally do with a client. Would you be my echo, Jean?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. So even though
a
lot of the stuff that's getting in my way, may have roots that go back beyond me. Even though a lot of stuff that's in my way, may have been passed down to me through the family line. And I thank those people. That passed it on. With the best of intentions. Even though they just didn't know what to do with it. And they hoped somebody would sometime. And maybe that's me. I love and accept myself. And everyone that's involved. Wherever they came from. Even though some genes were switched on. Because of what went on for my family. And some I've switched on myself. Because of what's going on for me now. And I'm letting every part of me know now. That it's finally safe. To release anything that's not mine. Anything that's not me. Wherever it came from. Any life. Any time. Any dimension. Releasing anything that's not me. Back to the universe for recycling. With my thanks for a job well done. Just take a breath and just check in. Anything pop up for you at that point? Well, the thing that I really like that you did in there is oftentimes we are in a circumstance where we pick something up that there is a sense that if I let it go, it's going to become a problem for someone else. Like, this is unuseful, and if I let go of it, it's kind of like, if I'm walking down the street and I spit my bubble gum out, what I'm doing is I'm now causing a problem for someone else. And I really love this idea of I'm letting go of the things because it's done what it's needed to do, and the universe is going to send it through some magic recycling process so it'll be redistributed in a useful way. And so just like that little piece of it just felt really, really lovely, because it just made it feel safer to let go of things that I no longer needed to be clinging to. Thank you. That's really useful feedback, because for me, sending something back to where it came from felt a bit like hitting somebody over the head with a brick. Mm-hmm. So I felt it needed to be dealt with in a kinder way. So I'm glad it came over that way. So, if I'm doing something, one-to-one with a client, then, I would do, I'll do let's go for it.
Yep.
Even though I have no idea. And actually, that's a great way of working with your subconscious. Mm-hmm. Just to tell it you don't know, so it then goes through the filing cabinets looking.
Well, for me, the way I like to do that is, even though I don't know the answer to this question, what is, and just giving ourselves permission not to know what that answer is. And it just kind of, like you said, the subconscious mind goes looking, but it doesn't feel like it's doing it in a desperate way where it has to know exactly what it is.
It takes away the perfectionist bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So even though I have no idea.
even though I have no idea
what was going on with my dad
what was going on with my dad
when the sperm that became part of me was formed.
when the sperm that became part of me was formed.
I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
whether I love and accept him or not.
whether or not I love and accept him,
Even though
I
have no idea
have no idea
what was going on with my mother or my grandmother
what was going on with my mother or my grandmother
when the egg that became part of me was formed.
when the egg that became part of me was formed.
I love and accept myself,
I love and accept myself,
and maybe even them.
and maybe even them,
Even though I've no idea
even though I have no idea
what was going on with either mum or dad
what was going on with either mom or dad
when I was conceived,
when I was conceived.
and it's likely there was a lot.
And likely there was a lot.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself,
I deeply and completely love and accept myself,
and maybe even them.
and maybe even them.
Even though when I was in the womb,
Even though when I was in the womb,
I was feeling everything my mum felt.
I was feeling everything that my mom felt.
I was feeling stuff from my dad,
I was feeling stuff from my dad,
from their parents,
from their parents,
their parents' parents,
their parents' parents,
right back through time.
right back through time.
And I thought it was mine.
And I thought it was mine.
Of course I did. I was just a baby feeling it.
Of course I did. I was just a baby feeling it.
And I'm letting all parts of me know now
And I'm letting all parts of me know now
that it was never mine.
that it was never mine.
And it's safe to release it now.
And it's safe to release it now.
On behalf of me
On behalf of me
and everybody that was involved,
and everybody who is involved,
in any way, at any time.
in any way, at any time.
And I love and accept us all.
And I love and accept us all.
Letting go now
Letting go now
of anything that's not mine.
of anything that's not mine.
Anything that's not me.
Anything that's not me,
Wherever it came from.
wherever it came from.
Any life.
Any life,
Any time.
any time,
Any dimension.
any dimension.
Setting myself free.
Setting myself free
To be me.
to be me.
And usually when I start that, there's things start popping up for the client, and then we track those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, often the bit when I say, and maybe there was a lot going on when they were conceived, you see light bulbs pinging.
Mm-hmm.
So then we'll deal with anything that comes up around that.
And one of the things I like in what you're doing here and letting things go and releasing it, I the vocabulary I use with my clients oftentimes is tools. Like we were given these tools because that's what these things are being passed on. And because it's a tool, I can put it down the exact same way I put down a tool and let it go in that particular way. And you're just coming at it with a different set of vocabulary in a different way. But I like the thing I think is really, really useful is to be operating from a place of we're not assuming blame. Now, there are people in our lives, in our past, who might have done things consciously and deliberately and maliciously to hurt us. I'm not dismissing those things. And there are a lot of things that we've gotten because of, kind-hearted incompetence or being in a circumstance where there's not a huge amount of experience. And, more and more, I am finding myself with hedging vocabulary when I'm tapping. Maybe I'm able to love them and maybe not. And particularly in a group setting like this, because we don't know where we are. Like, if you and I were working in a one-on-one client session and we weren't broadcasting ourselves to the world and we had rapport with us, I'm guessing some of that vocabulary would be a little more precise just because you would have a little more sense because we've been talked about these things in my relationships and what I think about these things. But at a starting point, I really love the, I'm open to the possibility. I may or may not. And what we're doing is we're not forcing anything onto our emotional state.
And actually, I would use that sort of language all the way through. Because, I have a very strong rebel.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that clients also do. And, when you're using those more allowing words, that way of you can or you can't, it doesn't matter either way. There's nothing for the rebel to fight against. And often getting the rebel on board, giving it, allowing it to use its strengths, but just as I put it, pointing the spotlight at something different, can be really helpful, because the rebel is what has tried to keep you when society and your family have tried to make you something different.
Yeah, and there is, like, it's such a human thing to have this one part of us that is so desperately trying to be a part of the tribe because that is the place that we feel safe, and this other part of us that so desperately wants to be the unique, special little snowflake that each one of us is in the way that we show up in this world at this moment in this existence and doing all of those things. And both of these things exist so tightly inside of us at the exact same time. I often think about it like a business that has a really strong legal team and a really strong research and development arm. And the research and development arm is trying to get us this chance to grow and develop and change and is looking forward. And the legal team is trying to keep us safe. And so it's constantly looking backwards at all of these things that have gone wrong and trying to prevent all of those things. And both of those things are super valuable as we evolve and we engage with the world. It's just not a lot of fun when they're doing this inside of us as we're trying to navigate our day. And then it becomes compounded when some of the things that are doing that banging aren't even ours and aren't useful for us. Like, it's one thing for the internal part of me that sees me at this place in the world and knows how to keep me safe. It's another thing when I'm carrying the story that is 3 generations old of what looks safe in the world, because I'm in such a completely different place in the world right now that those rules aren't very useful. And so it's good I have a part of me that's trying to keep me safe and looking backwards at the problems, but it's not all of the problems aren't super, super useful for me to be looking at.
Shall we do some tapping on conflicting parts?
Absolutely. I'd love that.
Because what I say to clients is, if something's not working, it means there's at least 2 parts of you fighting.
Yeah.
So even though there are parts of me that are in conflict with each other,
there are parts of me that are in conflict with each other.
In fact, there are probably many parts in conflict.
There are probably many parts that are in conflict.
And I love and accept all of them.
And I love and accept all of them.
They're doing a great job.
They're doing a great job.
With the little bit of information they have.
With the little bit of information that they have.
And I'd like all parts of me to understand.
And I'd like all parts of me to understand.
That their aim is the same.
That their aim is the same.
They all want me to be safe and happy.
They all want me to be safe and happy.
And they're going about it in different ways.
And they're going about it in different ways.
And what I'd like to suggest is that they get together. With my higher self.
With my higher self.
And create new strategies. That keep me safe and help me to be happy. And that they all agree with. So everybody is going in the same direction. It'll make everybody's job much easier.
It will make everybody's job so much easier.
And successful. Because conflict isn't working. And I love and accept all parts of me. I thank them for the great job they've done so far. And the even greater job they'll be doing when they're working together.
And the even greater job that they're going to be doing when they're working together.
And I love and accept myself and all parts of me. And it seems to me that it's really important to accept all parts of you, because they are all doing the best they can.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough information.
Yeah. Yeah. There, for me, and I've mentioned this before in the previous 16 hours somewhere. Um, Most mornings I start my day by having a staff meeting. And I just imagine like this little bitty conference room that's right here in my head, and all of the different parts that are coming that are going to be important for today. We come in, we have a team meeting, we do all that sort of stuff. And whenever we find a part that isn't functioning, I just treat it like an employee that just isn't functioning. And typically, employees that aren't functioning are one of three things: either they have the wrong information, they think they're responsible for much more than what they're actually responsible for, or they feel a sense of being disgruntled because they're not accepted by the other things that are going on. And so as I'm stepping to one of those parts that is out of sync with everything else, I'm kind of looking at it through that disposition. Like, are you over functioning? Do you have the wrong information? Or do you just feel like that you don't get to be part of the really cool kids club? And what do we do to engage with that particular part to bring them in exactly the way that you've been talking about here?
Yeah, that sounds great. I like that idea. A morning conference call.
Yeah, it's a team meeting. Absolutely. It's hard enough for me to manage the day. I might as well get everybody around the table to start the day and do that. And part of that is just my organizational brain, and that's just the way that I think. And so it's not right for everybody. But for me, like once I was introduced to this idea of different parts working inside of my system, this became a giant factory in a corporation. And the plumbing department is working on the GI track, and the HVAC guys are making sure that I breathe properly, and just like taking this ridiculous analogy, but it gives me the ability to peel off a part like you're talking about here and work with it in a way that I'm able to be gentle and soft and loving and caring to it, so that everything is working in harmony as I'm trying to navigate my day and my life.
Yeah, makes life difficult. It's very different when everything's in harmony.
Yeah.
Because it's the conflict that causes the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much longer we've got, Jean. Do you want to do a quick bit on past life?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. We've more than 10 minutes. Yeah. So we're okay.
So even though some of the stuff that's in my way may have its roots in previous lives. And I love and accept all the versions of me that have ever been.
And I love and accept all the versions of me that have ever been.
Even though a lot of stuff comes from other times. I'm reminding all parts of me. That what happened then happened.
What happened then happened.
And it's over. I've survived. I'm in 2022 now. And it's okay to keep the resources I gained. And release anything that's no longer for my highest good. Wherever it came from. Any lifetime. Dimension or ancestry. Setting myself free. To be me. In all my glory. Releasing now. All traumas I'm carrying from previous lives. All vows. Decisions. Beliefs. Or strategies. I created on past life traumas. Returning them all to the universe for recycling. With my thanks. For a job well done.
Now, one thing I think is important to note when we do something like that is, when I'm showing up as a practitioner, my job is to be the color of water. And so for me, I'm going to be very, very careful before I enter into something like that with one of my clients, because I don't want to be in a circumstance where I'm breaking rapport by introducing a spiritual worldview that they might not resonate with. And so it's like, it's great when we're in a circumstance. I have this really awesome tool that's really, really useful. And it's only useful if someone is able to engage with it in a way that is useful for them. And like my job's to be the color of water when I show up, being that I'm reflecting back the worldview and the place that you are to help you to move in a different way. And that's not a critique to the work that we just did there, but it's a warning for all of us to recognize, like, it's really easy to think that if we have something in common with someone, we have everything in common with someone. And it's just really that we want to be thoughtful as practitioners as we're being helpful with people.
And the way I would introduce that to clients is, this is a possibility.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's a real past life, whether it's somebody else's life you're tuning into.
Yep.
Or whether your subconscious is creating it as a metaphor to allow you to access something that you couldn't access other ways. And I say to them, I just do it as a cleanup, if that's okay.
And I love the fact that you mentioned that third one, that it's just a metaphor. In the tapping that I have done with clients, based on the things that my clients have reported, you would come to believe that in the 1600s, the primary energy source in the northeast of the United States was witches being burned at the stake, because so many people have that particular story. And if we look at that as a metaphor, what the story is saying is, if I use my giftedness where I am, it is dangerous. And so culturally, we have the story that says there were these people that were gifted in a particular way, or perceived to be gifted in a particular way, and therefore it costs them their lives. And so it becomes this, the subconscious mind is this beautiful metaphor machine. And what it does is it's able to tell a story that is true. The information that comes from my subconscious mind is true. Doesn't mean that it happened, but if we have something coming forward saying, oh my gosh, I have the story that says this is what's going on, it's not like I just randomly picked up some biography that I'm reading out of. Like, it's resonating through my experience, particularly in an emotional way, because it contains some truth to it. And so it gives us the opportunity to leverage that and create transformation without ever having to raise the question or have the conversation about, did it actually happen? What's going on? What's there?
Yeah. And, for some clients, they will believe in past lives. They'll have had experience of things in other ways, in which case we tap on them. For most people, it's just that, throwing it in as a possibility. You are subconscious. Do what's necessary to do with it. And to me, the important words are whatever happened, happened. So that's really open. It doesn't matter whether it happened to me, somebody else, or whatever happened. It's over. I've survived. I'm in 2022. For many parts of us, that's new information.
Absolutely. And the part that is, and I survived, is the really key part of this thing. I was working with someone, and we were doing some parts work, and we landed it at 15, and she was in a circumstance where she had witnessed something that fractured the relationship between her and her father, because she saw her father in an unflattering light. And so it severed this relationship. And, when those sorts of things happen, we can carry trauma with that for a very long time. And we were doing work with this 15 or 14-year-old version of her. And she's like, yeah, and she just didn't do a very good job. And I'm like, oh, hold on, stop. Let's reevaluate this particular thing. You and I are having this conversation because 14-year-old you had to survive something that 14-year-old you never should have survived. No one taught 14 how to do it. And somehow, because of creativity and ingenuity, that young little pumpkin version of you found a way through something that was really, really hard. And so it happened, and we survived because that younger part of us made it so that we could do exactly that. And we live in a time of exceptionalism, and we think things are only good when they are great or excellent, and great is below average. And surviving is not enough, or at least that's the disposition that we have. And I love the fact that you're saying that was then, it happened. It's fact. Like, there are facts that happen. Doesn't mean it has to determine who I am.
Yeah.
And I survived, and it's now the past experiences have created the spot I am standing. I can't ignore my past. Like, 100% I'm in this moment because of that. But that doesn't predetermine what comes next. And what you are saying in that particular phrase is, my past has informed this moment. My family has informed this moment. The stories that have been given to me inform this moment. But that's where it stops. It stops at informing the moment. It doesn't predetermine what the next step is. It impacts what the next step is because I'm informed by that, but it doesn't determine it, and I get to choose.
Yeah. I think that's the important thing, isn't it? A lot, what we're really trying to do is give the client permission to choose, whereas they believe that because X, Y, and Z, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it always has, because that's what happened with the family, because that's how it's always been, and allowing the parts to actually see. I always say to clients, if you comply, you always go in one direction. If you rebel, you always go in the other direction.
Yeah.
You want your parts to be looking for everything in between. And we're freeing the clients to be able to see, is there something out there that's more useful to me than what I would normally be doing?
And I really like you saying that there, because like, I have worked with clients who they have known something that is the right choice for them, but because someone they have a very poor relationship is also saying that's the right choice for them, there is this part of it, the rebel shows up and steers them away, where actually it feels like compliance, but it's not even compliance. What it's doing is, I'm choosing this particular direction that these other people in my life happen to agree with. And they might even claim compliance in my life. Good job, Gene. You're doing the thing I told you should be doing. And they're taking credit for that particular thing. And to be really aware of the fact that it's possible for me to make a good choice and have people who are not the best for me agree with that choice. And I don't need to rebel against that. And I can still be myself in that particular way.
Yeah. So many times my rebels kicked in and I've said no to something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which is, why, it's always from your own stuff, isn't it? That you start developing ways of working, because you work out how you need to do something for you. And then that gives you a tool to use with clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, excellent. Well, Jacqui, thank you very much for sharing this disposition. I'm so excited that you've thrown yourself into this work and created some really awesome resources for us to be able to harvest from and use in the work that we are doing.
Thank you, Gene, and thanks for doing this. I'm so impressed that you're still awake.
Well, there is a very fine line between righteous and stupid, and about 2.5 hours we went blowing past that line. So, at this point we'll push our way through, but we're going to get there in the end.
I wish you the best of luck with the rest of it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jacqui. Very, very good.